So today, we're going to be talking about employer engagement. And every time an employer hires or promotes an employee, they are recognizing the person's prior learning. Some employers are looking primarily for academic credentials, while others want to discover what knowledge, skills, and competencies that person has gained through work and life experience. So some of the key issues employers and workers face are managing labor shortages, utilizing immigrant talent, improving hiring effectiveness by improving the matches between people's skills and job requirements, reducing the Canadian experience, foreign experience barriers to employment, and reducing employment barriers for the non-credential mature workers. So today on our panel, my name is Robyn Webb, and I'm with the Greater Halifax Partnership. And we also have Kelly Pollack, who's the Executive Director of the Immigrant Employment Council of BC. We have Gail Hall, who's independent contractor for adult learning and recognition, development of standards and certification programs in sectors councils, and PLAR training and foreign credential recognition processes. And we also have Gaelyne MacAulay with us, and Gaelyne is an RPL consultant and past chair of CAPLA. So I guess we'll just get started, and I'm going to talk a little bit about smart business. Greater Halifax Partnership is the lead economic development organization for Halifax, and the partnership works to keep and grow the business in Halifax, attract new investment, strengthen our community, and help people succeed. So what the partnership offers is a variety of different areas to support our community. Smart business, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about in a moment, marketing, competitive intelligence and strategic advice, investment attraction, investor relations, community economic development, talent, Halifax Gateway, and economic strategy. My main areas of concern and focus are smart business, which is business retention and expansion, and labor market development. So, as I mentioned, Smart Business is the Greater Halifax Partnership Business Retention and Expansion Program. It started in 2004. And we needed to create this for several reasons. One, because in order to remain competitive with other communities, we had to have a business retention and expansion program in place as well. So we help small and medium and large-sized businesses overcome challenges and provide them with the resources necessary to support opportunities that come along. And so the account executives meet face-to-face with the CEO or the senior management of the company, and we go through a bit of a diagnostic tool to see what their challenges are, where they're at right now within their business, and what they need help with. And we have an action team that we pulled together, made up of 33 different representatives from different organizations that have existing programs available to help. So whether it's in labor or access to capital or training, what have you, we have some great programs here that we can connect people and businesses to. And it's real-time problem solving. So within 48 hours, they will have a contact from that resource and directly, and to start working on that issue. The other thing that we find that quite often, of course, in industry sectors, there's sector-specific issues that businesses that have in common, systemic issues. So at that point, we can bring all three levels of government plus private industry to the table to see if we can work out a solution. And that's when really meaningful work can happen. And we're constantly gauging the business climate factors. So as I mentioned, we started this program in 2004. Since then, we've had over 2,600 consultations face-to-face with businesses to determine their challenges. We've helped to retain or create over 8,000 jobs. And this past year alone, we had over 200 visits face-to-face, and of course, follow-up consultations, about 400 of those. And then out of that came 1,969 jobs. We count each one of those jobs, so I'm not rounding it off. So when we look at overall, what is the feedback that we're getting from businesses? What are their biggest challenges? And of course, over the years, year to year, the top three can change and do change depending on what's going on in the global economy. But it's fairly consistent that workforce availability and quality are always in the top three of businesses since 2004. As the labor market tightens, it's becoming even more of a concern for businesses as to what's coming up. So when I mentioned the 33 action team members that we have and the existing resources that they have, I thought I would just focus and just list off a few of the ones that are really connected to labor, that actually have pools of great talent or programs to help businesses. And those are, you're probably familiar by now with ICES, Immigrant Settlement and Integration Services. They're great partners with us. Job services, job search services. Teamwork Cooperative, for those of you that aren't familiar with that, it's for people that have certain challenges, and there's once we send a referral to that team member, it circulates to 30 organizations that may be able to access underutilized talent pools. We also work with the community college to develop customized training programs and tap into the graduates that are there. Also work very closely with the universities, with their cooperative programs, as well as their career development resources. So just a quick overview of the Nova Scotia job market. Nova Scotia labor market will require an additional 74,000, almost 75,000 workers over the next 5 years. That's pretty aggressive for a small city of Halifax. New employment growth is expected to increase the number of jobs by 18,700. You know, we're really excited. We've got 3 major projects that have come to Halifax, to Nova Scotia in general, which will impact all of Atlantic Canada, and that is the Nova Scotia ship procurement contract with Irving Shipbuilding. That's a $30 billion contract to build ships over the next 25 years, and of those, they're not just welders. A lot of them are very technical experience that's needed. Not to mention the Shell offshore exploration, that's another $1.6 billion investment into Nova Scotia, as well as the link to Newfoundland with the underwater cable for the hydropower. So a further 56,000 jobs are expected to be generated through replacement due to retirements. We are an aging community, unfortunately. We're doing our best to attract new talent here. The latest forecast highlights the growing importance of higher skills and education in the provincial labor market. And these list some of those areas that we're looking for, those types of skills and talent. The Nova Scotia government understands that, you know, in order to meet these needs, it's going to have to be threefold. It's going to have to be, you know, attracting immigrants, and keeping them here. It's keeping our young talent here as they graduate from several of our universities, and those that are visiting from other places to stay here and consider the opportunities that are here for them, but also to upskill and retrain other, you know, all of the available labor market. So Nova Scotia's unemployment rate was 8.8 in 2011. When you look at Halifax itself, is 5.8 as of today. So we do have a very low unemployment rate. We've done some campaigns to try to impact business hiring process. So we're trying very hard to have them consider hiring young and emerging professionals that maybe bypassing the 3 to 5 years experience. So these are some of the, this is a bit of our campaign that we have out in market right now. Our aim is to help employers understand the huge gaps in talents availability and the needs to address their human resources. So, you know, trying to, you know, for years we've had a great talent pool, and you know, you could hire from your competitors and, you know, just bring all that expertise and knowledge with you. It's not going to be that way moving on. It's not that way right now. Businesses need to invest in their people and need to reconsider what their requirements really are. Is it a nice to have or is it a need to have? And can you reskill and upskill those that may not have traditionally fit into your hiring process? So we've started a connector program that is a networking tool to connect immigrants, international students, and young and emerging talent with employers and industry leaders. So we've had about 366 connectors from over 250 organizations that volunteer to meet with a newcomer or young and emerging professional to get a better understanding of their background and to connect them with 3 other connections in the business community that will hopefully lead to a job. So the Greater Halifax Partnership, the only other thing I wanted to talk about is we're in our second year, or in the first year rollout of our 5-year economic strategy. That 5-year economic strategy was a creation of all 3 levels of government and private industry at the table, saying, what will Halifax look like in 5 years? How can we get on the right track and address what we're going to need, our needs in 5 years? And the 5 goals are regional center, business climate, talent, international brand, and maximize growth opportunities. And each of those have a team in place that have a 5-year strategy, and we're working away diligently at those right now. So that's smart business for now. I think we'll probably just wait and ask questions later once we've all presented. So next, I'd like to introduce Kelly Pollack. Sure.
Sorry, folks, bear with us. Technical.
There you go. This is yours.
I don't know if I want to say that. Perfect.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone, and thanks for being here, and thanks for coming on time to the first session. I know that's not always the easiest thing to do. Can I just get a sense before I start of who's in the room, and maybe I'll just do it by a quick show of hands. Any employers in the room this morning? What about educators? I'm assuming I'm seeing. Perfect. Regulators? Okay. Government folks? And how about the ubiquitous other? Does anybody want to be another? I love it. Okay, what did I miss? Somebody tell me. Where are you from? Nonprofit. Oh, you're right, I missed that because I'm from a nonprofit. See, I just assumed. All right. Well, thanks. That gives those of us who are speaking an idea of who's here. I'm from BC. I'm with the Immigrant Employment Council of British Columbia, and I've got to figure out how to use this clicker, so bear with me for a moment. And I'll just give you a very brief background about who we are and what we do, and then I'm going to talk to you specifically about a tool that we've developed to work with the business community around assessing prior learning. We are a multi-stakeholder group of folks, and when I say that, I have a large board of directors that's made up of key business champions from within the province, as well as all 3 levels of government. I have labor, I have nonprofit, and I have post-secondary represented on my board of directors. And the reason for that is, first of all, immigrant labor market integration is a multi-stakeholder challenge. You know, those of you who have been doing this work for quite a number of years recognize that it's going to take a lot of us to come up with appropriate solutions, and that there's no silver bullet. So we tried to get as many key folks to the table as we could. And when we did this, and the Immigrant Employment Council of BC was formed in 2008, we recognized that there's a lot going on already in the community, in particular through service providers, post-secondary, etc. But where we really needed to focus our efforts was on building the capacity and awareness of the business community, of employers, to attract, hire, and retain immigrants. So why? Well, I don't think our situation is any different than it is here in Nova Scotia. And so listening to my colleague Robyn talk, I thought, oh, I'm just going to take those stats. I just tried to keep this one pretty simple. Lots of critical skills and labor shortages in British Columbia, with not as much growth, I think more than Nova Scotia is my understanding of the statistics, but nevertheless not nearly enough growth to fill the job opportunities that are happening. And so at the same time, we recognize that we have skilled immigrants within the province who are landed that are not working in areas that are commensurate with their training and experience. That ongoing disconnect between supply and demand. And so again, for the Immigrant Employment Council, we really tried to focus our strategies on building both the understanding and the ability of demand to hire the current supply. So one of the things that we decided to do earlier this year, because we were working from dated information, we felt, was to do a consultation around the province. And we have a provincial mandate. Now, that sure makes a difference when you're looking at what's going on in the Metro Vancouver area versus what's happening in many of the smaller communities around our province, in particular in the north, where we have a growing resource sector, oil and gas, mining, etc., and yet no new labor influx into those areas, and a great challenge, frankly, of projects not even going to be able to start if they can't get more skilled labor into those areas. What we found, so we did a consultation, let me back up, sir, just in a moment, and we focused on 7 regions and 8 key sectors throughout the province. And we did it as a focus group style. We thought, you know, let's talk to people within those communities, and we worked with local organizations, boards of trade, chambers, economic development commissions, but they're small in the outlying communities, and had them bring some people to the table to really help us understand what the challenges were that they were facing and what potentially the Immigrant Employment Council could do about it. From that, we released a report. It's called the BC Employer Consultation. It's on our website. And there's a series of recommendations that many were targeted towards both the federal and provincial government, but some towards the business community themselves. Of course, what we heard, and I say of course because I guess I've been on this file for a number of years, and more than I'm going to admit in this room this morning, and you know, employers still talking about the same barriers, still saying, you know, well, I'd like to hire, but lack of Canadian work experience, English language proficiency, and credential recognition, the top 3 that we've been hearing for years, and I hated to say it, but we heard it again. What was different for us, or at least it was for me, is that for the first time I really understood that employers got the business case. So they understood that this was a key talent pool that they needed to draw from. What they didn't understand still was how. And again, part of the how goes back to, but I don't know how to understand this person's resume. I don't know how to essentially not screen them out when I'm trying to hire. So for the Immigrant Employment Council, we come at things, whoops, sorry. Yeah. Oh, I know how to work the clicker. Boy, that doesn't often happen first thing in the morning. We come at our work from a couple of different approaches, and one is to develop sort of on-the-ground tools and resources and strategies to help employers, and the other is, I guess, from a higher, a more strategic level where we try to influence policies and programs within the province. But I'm going to focus at this point on just the tools and resources. We already had, when we did the consultation, a website in place, and it really, again, is targeted to the 3 key things that employers want is how do you find talent, how do you hire talent, and how do you retain it. So in listening to the business community through the consultation, we recognized that, again, that assessment piece was critical for them. So we worked with our colleagues at the BC Human Resources Management Association, and they're the umbrella organization for HR managers and stop touching this thing. Some hiring managers around the province. And we actually contracted with them to develop what they call the new Canadian assessment tool. So really looking at things from a HR or hiring manager's perspective. How do you look at a resume? And I am going to actually go on record right now as saying we do not assume that we are experts in credential assessment. That's not our role. What our role is to try and help employers and get them to the place where they can either go to the right people, or in looking at a resume, they might be able to do a little bit of that understanding, and I don't want to use the word assessment, but understanding on themselves. So we're just at the beginning stages. The tool was actually just launched three months ago. And so you will see here, and I'm sorry it's screenshots, I apologize, but we didn't want to take a chance with the, bringing in the site live because of technical challenges potentially. There's a list of resumes on the left, and we are building on that all the time, or actually I should say our colleagues at the BC Human Resources Management Association are building on that. So the purpose of it is and forgive me, but I do need to look at my notes on this because I'm not the expert. My team are actually the expert, is to allow employers to look at the sample skilled resumes and find some information on challenges that they might come up against and how to potentially overcome them. So, as I said, here's and some examples of some professional resumes, trade resumes, and administrative and executive. And we'll take a closer look at the one at the top of the list, which is the civil engineer. So, above each resume, we've identified some key considerations for the employer. Boy, this thing's sensitive. So, for example, on this one, the key considerations that are identified are, is the candidate's English proficiency adequate to meet the essential skill requirements for the job? Particularly the requirement to be able to motivate and provide direction to a team. So employers are often asking about those other skills. Is the candidate licensed to work as an engineer? Is the experience appropriate for the role? And below that, we have an example of the skilled immigrant resume. And this is actually taken from someone's resume, so this is not a made-up one. And inside, we've identified potential stumbling blocks or challenges for the employers, and there's a red plus sign. You can see that there on the left. And so what you do when you're on the site is you click on the plus sign. And it gets you a drop-down section that offers more information and resources. And again, what I'm trying to do is not click this appropriately, obviously. I'm going the wrong way. Oh, well, there, I'm done. I think I should just sit down now. Okay, I'm going to not be able to do this. My apologies. No, I'm just technically challenged first thing in the morning. I think I'd do better with somebody clicking for me. Yeah, I might need someone to help. So, thank you.
Maybe just try using the...
Or maybe I'll just talk to these folks, because looking at a screenshot's a bit boring anyway.
Just use these right here.
Yeah, that would be better. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, I think that thing's a little sensitive. Let me just go back here. Okay, right. Sorry about that, everyone. So in this case, the potential challenge for the employer, see, I touched nothing and it moved. I'm just going on record here. Look, I have no hands. I'm just going to talk now.
I guess you're done.
Okay, I think I am, or I think I should be. It's okay. We're good.
Sure?
We're good.
Okay.
I think we're good. I'm just not going to torture these people anymore. Right. So let me pull myself together. So the point of all of this is what we've recognized is that there are many experts in the field. We, within the context of the tool, try to both build some understanding of employers of how to do this on their own, or to point them towards the experts in the field that can help them. And I think what we're hearing back on the tool, because we've since done a survey out through the Human Resources Management Association, and they did focus groups with their members, is they're finding that this is one more tool that they can use in, I won't use the term again, the toolbox of being able to better assess immigrant talent and to bring them into the workplace. So on that note, I think I better sit down because it said thank you about 3 times, and I'll be happy to take questions when my colleagues are finished. Thank you, everyone.
I need the step stool to get over top of the laptop. But good morning, folks. I'm Gail Hall, and I'm going to be just giving you a little bit of an overview of some of these sector council tools. How many of you are familiar with sector councils in Canada? Quite a few of you. Okay, that's great. Sector councils, basically, for those of you who are not, are industry-led partnerships that bring together the stakeholders of each of the individual sectors, so government, education, industry, etc., to look at human resource issues and try and come up with creative solutions and effective and efficient solutions within that particular sector. The Alliance of Sector Councils, or TASC as it is known, is the overall umbrella organization that brings the sector councils together so that they can discuss common issues, share resources, learn what others are doing, and basically learn from people's both mistakes and the things that have succeeded. And this website is an excellent resource. It will take you to each of the sector council groups. There have been 37 sector councils due to some recent cutbacks. Some of them are now closing down. They're looking at where those resources may go so that the good work that's been done can be retained in the future. But a number of them are still in operation, and you can find all of the sector council groups through the task website. You'll see the URL up in the corner, so it's www.councils.org. And from the perspective that we're looking at, I just used this slide to show you the basic groupings that they do within the sector councils. So you'll see that it covers quite a bit of territory. It covers the non-regulated occupations, and each of these is national in scope, but they're organized differently. Some of them have provincial bodies, some of them simply have the national organization. But actually on their website, you could take arts and culture, drop it down, and get all of the sector councils that are under that particular category, etc. So with the resources that the sector's councils have in relation to what we're talking about today, for employers, they have the resources that can help recruit, just what we're talking about, select, train, retain, and promote. So that one of the things in retention is often helping people to know that there's a career path ahead of them. So it offers the opportunity for people to see that in a particular sector, there is the pathway that they can move forward and also sometimes move sideways, because a lot of people have interest in simply going into a different area within the same sector or between sectors where it's transferable. A couple of the things that I'm going to go into a few examples, but one of the best resources within sector councils is the fact that most of them have been working to develop occupational profiles or national occupational standards. And these actually define the knowledge, skills, and abilities that people need to do the job. It's benchmarked for those jobs. Those resources become a marvelous basis for employers to be able to use as a checklist, basically, to pull out what skills and knowledge relate to their positions, and then to develop better job descriptions. This means that they can put out appropriate information so that people who are looking to either enter the sector or move from another country can find out more realistically what the job really entails, and they are providing the appropriate information about what they are looking for in knowledge and skills from an individual. It helps the individual also on the other side because they can develop their profile or their resume identifying the knowledge and the skills they have that meet the job requirements of the employer. So the employer won't necessarily use all of the knowledge and skills that are in those standards, but they will be able to pick and choose what relates to their specific jobs and responsibilities. It also helps match employer skills to job requirements, as we've just mentioned. So once you've hired, you can take a look at where the gaps may be in the people that you've hired and see where you can train internally or where you may want to help them fill those gaps externally. And the progressive pathways that I mentioned before. I know you can't read these. I want to just show you a little bit about what some of the different things offer and the way they look like on their websites. Sorry, the one other thing I missed from the previous slide, and just looking at the other thing that you can get from the sector councils, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them provide certification programs for the individuals. And this is really PLAR, because the certification programs are a challenge model. So people, sometimes there's a requirement of a certain amount of experience before people can challenge it. But they're not based on a training program. There are a few. I'm not sure whether that's the 5-minute warning or what that one is, but So what they do offer through the certification programs is the ability for individuals to challenge that certification and to be able to prove and demonstrate their skills. They then receive that industry certification, which they can take to an employer and say, I have demonstrated that I have the competence required in the field. So it works both ways as recognition for the individual and assistance for the employer. So this particular one is from the construction field. And basically what some of the things that it offers in here, the job description guidelines, position summaries, identifies key skills that would be required in all of the jobs, and employer requirements. So again, what they're doing is building up toolkits within the construction sector. Another one plugged in, I love some of the names they come up with for some of these. Within the electricity sector council, they define the essential skills for all of the particular jobs in the field. They define duties and responsibilities, and they have some job descriptions that they actually put up as examples within the field, so that employers can actually go on and use some of the templates that they have there, adapt them for their own use, or again, potential employees can go on and take a look and see how they might be able to organize their resume for to make it fit the employer's needs. So basically within national occupational standards, what I mentioned was simply that these job descriptions can be used then for hiring, for training needs, to organize your teams, to look at the capabilities of different people, and for progression and succession. Because in order to retain people, you have to support them, show them that there is a career pathway. This is one example of tourism, and it identifies the number of occupational standards that they have. It's organized into frontline, supervisory, and managerial. You can go in, they're free to download so that you can make use of them as employers wish. This is just a quick sample out of one of the sets of standards so that you can see how they're organized. And you can see from here that you could pick actually within here, so this particular one is promoting tourism, and then the professional areas, professionalism areas, handle problems in special situations. You can condense it from there as you wish to be able to make use of things, or they also have examples where they've changed it more holistically to look at what learning outcomes, basically for educators, but can be used for employers as well, because they're a little more condensed in terms of the way they are organized. And also, just again with a few other examples on here, you'll see it from here that they have customizable templates. Now, they're not the only sector council that has this. This is simply an example, so that employers can pick these out, choose what they wish. The other thing to note is that often you can go in and find tools that are useful on sector council sites, even if they're not necessarily the sector that you're looking for. Because a lot of the tools, such as the employer toolkits, how to hire, how to write job descriptions, this kind of thing, are very useful across different sectors. So this is just a very quick overview of some of the tools that are out there. I encourage you to take a look on various sites and various sector councils to see what's out there, if it's something that could be useful for you as employers, as not-for-profit, as counselors looking to help people get into the field. So, thank you.
Good morning. My name's Gaelyne MacAulay, and I'm from Prince Edward Island. And yeah, whoops, I was already there. I want to go to here. Great. And I have an interesting presentation this morning. I'm speaking on 4 or 5 different tools. So if you picture yourself in a receiving line at a wedding, You get to shake hands, meet who they are, and move on and find out stuff about them later. So, oh, sorry, okay. So it's just going to be a snapshot of what some of these tools are, of what an employer might use them for as well. Because even what I'm hearing this morning as we look around the room, it sounds like we need to engage employers. I'm not sure if they know what's out there or how to use them. So I think I have a plan, Bonnie, for a workshop at our next conference. First of all, I wanted to talk about the HRSD Essential Skills Project. Anybody not aware of this project? Everybody knows what the 9 essential skills are? Excellent. So I think this is one of the most helpful tools that we can find for employers and show them how to use it. I think what can capture an employer is the complexity levels. So in the 9 essential skills, they can actually look at what level they want a new employee or an existing employee to move to. So if we just look at one little example, like in reading, it would be level 1, read a short text and locate a single piece of information. Right up to level 5, where they interpret dense and complex documents. So you can see the range there, and I think an employer, when they really look at those complexity levels, could look at and decide what they want their employer to know and be able to work the level they want to work at. There's also a hiring checklist that is very valuable for employers to use in this project. Profiles, 350 job profiles. And along with everything that you can find in the profiles, there's 3 aspects to it that really excite me. One is the physical aspects, the physical demands for the job. And that comes from interviewing employees. And as we move into keeping the 4.3 million mature workers between the ages of 65 and 70 employed, we have some mobility issues. So physical aspects for the job become more valuable to know of what you can do and what your employer thinks you can do. Attitude on the profiles, and they reflect directly from the national occupational classifications and future trends. This is also a tool that you can use to guide students as they're choosing careers. Future implications, skill levels that are going to be required 5-10 years down the road. Also, too, on the site, really great little guides to follow. It's like little paths everywhere, and that's what I really like about the HRSD site. Now, next I'm going to touch on TOWS, Test of Workplace Essential Skills. And anybody know about TOWS? Great. Okay, so we have a learning curve there. So those folks who put their hands up, those of you who want to know more can talk to those folks or go to the site later on. During the 1990s, workplace trainers said they really wanted a test that would test the workplace essential skills of new hires. So based on the information in the adult literacy survey, they wanted to be able to bring both of those together in a usable test that could help employers hire. Trainers wanted a new assessment to allow worker skills to be compared to the requirements listed in the profile and in IELTS. And they wanted an assessment that was valid and consistent so that we'd all be working from the same page. So in 1998, the BC Construction Industry Improvement Council, Bow River College formed a joint venture and came up with with funding from HRSDC, came up with TOWS. And once again, tons of information on the internet, and that's why I've listed the URLs on the top of each one of these slides. These slides are also going to be available on our RFL site, so you don't have to worry about taking a whole pile of notes. TOWS tests are also useful in PLAR processes and courses in apprenticeship and so on. And, but they just use 3 essential skills. So not the whole 9 that we have. TOWS specifically targets reading text, numeracy skills, and document use. Next, I'm going to touch on ESPORT. Essential Skills Portfolio. It's an online essential skills assessment and planning tool, and it helps for people prepare for entry-level positions. So this is a really valuable one, I think, for newcomers to our country who want to get into the workforce. Esport supports the Plato Essential Skills Online. So everybody know about Plato? Okay, go to that site there. If you don't, type in Plato and away you go. Clients work on individual programs in over 400 occupations. So there's a vast access to information there. And trained facilitators track and supervise their clients. Conference Board of Canada Employability Skills. Another one of those fundamental ones that we cannot live without. Fundamental skills, personal management skills, and teamwork skills. Under fundamental skills, we have communication, manage information, use numbers, and think and solve problems. Under personal management skills, we have positive attitudes, being responsible, being adaptable, continuous learning, and working safely. And under teamwork skills, working with others and participating in projects or tasks. So they're very well defined. They came out in 2000, and I still have one of my little original folders back at home that I pull out every time I go to work with a new learner. The employability tools kit that goes along with that, it's a self-management tool, so learners can use it, but also, too, employers can go in there and help define the different levels they want their workers to achieve. And I'm thinking that there are a lot of employers who really are not aware of these tools, let alone how they can use them. And if they are aware, sometimes they just think it's something that educators use. And the employability skills are the skills that are used for everyone, needed for everyone who works and learns in Canada. Essential Skills Assessment Tools Inventory. I want to show you a couple of things. Oh, I'll show you one more tool. The next level from employability skills goes into actual tools employers can use on the job. This is one in the last project I was involved with a couple of years ago, and there's some folks from workplace education here on workplace learning on PEI. It was a trade essentials project, and it was essential skills, and it was PLAR tools that could be used by an apprentice and a journey person in the workplace. So I brought along one of those. It was all done based on complexity levels, using employability skills and everything to be funded. Those things are also available online, and they're available both on our Recognition for Learning site and on the NALD Literacy Database. Is everybody aware of the NALD Literacy Database? You should go there and have a look. The amount of information that's stored there is phenomenal. It's one of probably should be somebody's first stop every time they go to work with employers or learners or develop new course outlines or whatever. Now, I want to show this little thing that I found as I was preparing for this. This was first developed by Dawson College in 2009, and then it was updated in 2010 by the Saskatchewan Ministry of Advanced Education. What they did was take these tools, and I've only touched on a few of them, there's a whole bunch more here, and they divided them, so they named the assessment tool, the description of the assessment details, the consumer learning target group, the method, the results, the assessor requirements, so if somebody's looking at these to actually award credit, availability that tells you if it's free or if there's a cost, and additional tools that are available. So this little piece of paper is wonderful. And I went through all the URLs to see if they were still active, and they are, except I love HRSDC, but they change their URL every bloody year. So your best bet is just to type in Essential Skills Canada, and up pops the Essential Skills site from HRSDC. But other than that, every one of the other URLs are accurate, and you just go to this site to access this little document. I'm so excited about finding it. I sent it to Bonnie right away, and her response was, wow. So, 10 minutes is up. I did it. I don't know. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Gaelyne, Gail, and Kelly.